On day 184, we're going to start by reading the quote. The motivational life quote today, it goes like this: your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. Your life is always moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. Scripture talks a little bit about this. We're going to read from 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5 today. But before I do that, just speaking to this quote as it relates to my general life experience, I think rhythms in life are actually really important. It's almost like, I played basketball and baseball and tennis and all these sports growing up, and I've learned that like momentum in sports is a real thing. And when you get confidence and when you get rolling, things can start to fit together a little bit easier. Like for a baseball player, timing at the plate. If you're rolling, it feels like things are coming naturally, and then if you get in a slump, it feels like the timing's all messed up and the swing's out of whack, and you feel like you're doing the exact same thing and you just can't figure it out. I feel like those rhythms and those ways of life can kind of be similar, where there are seasons where you're being disciplined and things are coming naturally, and there's seasons where it feels like everything's disjointed, and no matter how hard you try, you feel like you're taking steps backwards. But regardless, I think if we can choose, no matter the external circumstances in our life, no matter what's happening to us, if we can just choose every day when we wake up, hey, I am going to choose to make my thoughts obedient to Christ. I'm going to choose to pursue His will over my own. I'm going to choose love. I'm going to choose kindness. Like, that stuff can sound cheesy, but if you wake up with that conviction and that intention, your life will move in a more positive direction. Again, doesn't mean that the external circumstances are all going to work out. Doesn't mean that the chips are all going to fall in your favor. Doesn't mean you're always going to be healthy or you're always going to be the happiest person. But I think you can pursue these things to move your life forward positively and to have joy and perspective along the way. So Scripture talks about this quote about your life moving in the direction of your strongest thoughts. So let's read 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5. It says, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. We take captive every thought and make it obedient to Christ. So my application study Bible, it says, Paul uses military terminology to describe this warfare against sin and Satan. God must be the commander-in-chief. Even our thoughts must be submitted to His control as we live for Him. Spirit-empowered believers must capture every thought and yield it to Christ. When exposed to ideas or opportunities that might lead to wrong desires, you have a choice. You can recognize the danger and turn away, or you can allow unhealthy thoughts to take you captive. You capture your fantasies and desires when you honestly admit them to the Lord and ask Him to redirect your thinking. Ask God to give you the spirit of discernment to keep your thoughts focused on His truth. Yeah, I think that's so true. There was a quote, like a joking quote that I heard a couple years ago, and it said something to the effect of, and I think I've mentioned it in these videos before, but the problem is I'm the boss of me, and that guy runs a really loose ship. I've felt that way in previous seasons of life at times where maybe I'm not being disciplined and I'm not actively living my faith. This would have been years ago. But the problem is when you start to get undisciplined and you're not making your thoughts obedient to Christ, it's kind of like with dieting and eating healthy. Is like when you get off track, you can really fall off the rails, and your mind can start going to places that are not healthy. They're not healthy for your walk with Christ. And I think it's just that pursuit of being disciplined and obedient to Christ. And some people might feel like that's restrictive, but in my mind, it's anything but that. It is so freeing to lean on God and not lean on your own earthly, selfish, sinful ways. I've tried living that way before. It's not sustainable. But when you're just living for Christ and you're always pursuing better, you're pursuing optimal, you're pursuing to love people, you're pursuing patience, like these things, they can be They can be challenging because it's against the grain of what our human minds want to do, but they're so freeing, and they're such a blessing when you just pursue these things with strength and perseverance. So that's what I got today. 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 5. And your life, again, it's always going to move in the direction of your strongest thoughts. So wake up, and even if you're having a bad day, even if you're having a tough season, no matter what the external circumstances are, just choose thoughts that are obedient to Christ. Redirect and give it to Him. Cast your anxieties on Him. Pray to Him when things are not, when your thoughts are not in the direction of what Christ is intending for you. Give that a shot. Be persistent with it, just like the diet, just like the gym. It's like the hardest part's the first couple weeks, but if you can just hold yourself accountable and to not be the guy that runs a loose ship that I talked about, but if you can be a guy that's running the tight ship, that's working, that's pursuing better, that's trying to be the person that God created you to be. It might be challenging, but it's going to be worth it if you stick with it. I guarantee it. That's day 184.